Is Hammer of the Gods overrated, and is Sunder just better in 0.5? Hammer of the Gods was the OG mace payoff skill all the way back in Path of Exile 2's 0.1 release. On a 24-second timer, you could drop a massive hammer from the heavens that, at gem level 20, was almost 9 times as powerful as your basic mace strike. It was a notorious boss killer, and not only could you reduce its cooldown time, something its quality already did, but Chronomancer could double cast it with Time Snap. It made bosses a joke basically for free. The skill received a rework in 0.2, which changed its cooldown to its current glory requirement mechanic. You build this glory by heavy stunning enemies, something which makes it fairly spammable for clear, but makes it much harder to use against bosses unless you're building around heavy stun. For that matter, you may find yourself killing enemies before you can actually heavy stun them and not even getting to build the glory that way. But both patch 0.4 and 0.5 added new options to make Hammer of the Gods spammable again. 0.4 added Xerfe's Infamy, a lineage support gem which gives supported skills a glory requirement but lets you gain glory by spending life on other skills. This allows you to bypass the heavy stun glory requirement and effectively spam the skill by using, for example, a high mana cost curse converted to a life requirement slotted into Reaper's Invocation to automate glory generation when you kill enemies. Then, in 0.5, Gemling Legionnaire was reworked to give most skills an additional quality effect. For Hammer of the Gods, Gemlings can reach 40% quality for 100% to not consume glory, making the aforementioned Xerfe's Infamy loop even more efficient. But is this worth doing? Most players are aware of this skill's powerful reputation from 0.1, and probably remember its change from cooldown to glory cost, but what not as many people know, probably because this change wasn't mentioned in the patch notes and so isn't visible on PoE2DB, is that Hammer of the Gods received a massive damage nerf in 0.2. With the Internet Archive, we can look at the old damage scaling in patch 0.1.1g right before 0.2. The damage change is notable even at gem level 20, but grows more and more staggering as gem levels increase. GGG has made it pretty clear over the past few patches that they don't want martial characters to scale by gem level in the same way that casters do, and that's a whole other discussion. But even still, Hammer of the Gods is currently an outlier, scaling with gem levels at a below average rate for mace skills. This is strange, because generally GGG gives higher gem level scaling to martial payoff skills. For example, Ice Shot is over 3.5 times stronger at gem level 40 than 20, but Hammer of the Gods is less than twice as powerful at 40 versus 20. If you're looking to spam a big, heavy mace attack in 0.5, I actually think Sunder might be the better choice. Let's compare the two. It's true that at gem level 20, Hammer of the Gods has a much larger damage multiplier than Sunder and a good amount more attack speed. I suppose if you're adding lots of base attack speed, or if you're stacking attack speed through other means, this may not end up feeling that much different, but there is a difference. However, the damage multipliers are while I mentioned that Hammer of the Gods is below average for mace skill scaling, Sunder is well above average. If we assume you're using a level 20 skill gem, a Prism of Belief for plus 3 levels, an Amulet with plus 3 levels, and then dual wielding two-handed maces for another 10 levels, you'll reach gem level 36, and the differences there are low enough that they're almost situational. At gem level 36, Hammer of the Gods is only 20% more effective in damage scaling than Sunder. Meanwhile, Sunder does more than just one hit depending on how many enemies are in its area of effect. If you have at least 2 targets, Sunder's total damage to each is actually 17% higher than that of Hammer of the Gods. Let's dig further into the important details. Hammer of the Gods takes a while to fall after the cast itself, though reduced duration effects can mitigate this, and if you're truly spamming it, then this is not going to be noticeable. The offsets are just going to squish into each other. Meanwhile, Sunder has an AoE shockwave feature, as previously mentioned. The shockwaves can't shotgun, an enemy can only take damage from one shockwave per use of Sunder. But its maximum count of 7 is still high enough that you're essentially always going to hit with both the main attack and the shockwave so long as you have at least 2 targets, since the shockwave doesn't damage the original target that it emanates from. Sunder also adds an additional physical damage taken debuff on enemies with fully broken armor. It's a common misconception that this debuff consumes the broken armor to apply itself, since an older version of Sunder did consume it to guarantee a crit, but this is no longer the case. You're now essentially doubling the effect of fully broken armor for free. Finally, Gemling quality on Sunder gives an attack speed boost, a more attack speed boost even, something that is very much needed given its low base attack speed and really bridges that additional gap between Hammer and Sunder. And none of this needs to be built around in the same way as with Zerfi's Infamy and Reaper's Invocation. You just plug Sunder into your skill bar and go to town. I think there are 2 takeaways from this. The first is that if you're considering Hammer of the Gods spam while stacking gem levels, especially as a gemling, you might use Sunder instead. At just gem level 26, Hammer of the Gods is only about 30% stronger than the combined hits of Sunder. That benefit falls to only 5% by gem level 31, achievable without even dual wielding. But second, this is just another indicator of the weird balancing outliers that I hope will be addressed either in 0.5.5 or at most in 1.0. Comet spam has remained, to say the least, very competitive throughout the whole history of early access, even though it's a payoff skill with a workaround to bypass most of its downsides, which is what Hammer of the Gods used to be. Maybe someday it'll be allowed to be that again.